you guys feel rested? Feel recovered?
I do. I know Andy does.
After the Ohio State off week, it is the Monday after the Ohio State idle week, bye week, off week, whatever the heck you want to call it. Lettermen Row is well rested, well recovered, and ready to talk about Ohio State and Maryland. Notre Dame in the rear view. Buckeyes 17-14, still celebrating that win, but making sure to put that full focus on the Terrapins, who are now 5-0 for the first time since 2001. That's the 40-year vet Tim May. That's Andy Backstrom. I am Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for being with us for the Monday after the Ohio State bye week. Fellas, not a lot of Ohio State conversation to be had right now, just with the idle week. Of course, there's things to clean up, which the Buckeyes worked last week on. Now it's back into a normal game week. There's things to be happy about, which the Buckeyes were last week. Now it's on to a normal game week. Tim, if you have one thing that you'd like to see maybe beefed up, changed, shored up after the idle week, after Notre Dame, what would that be for Tim May? What's on Tim May's mind?
This feels like, I feel like I'm in the U.S. Open tennis, and you just lobbed one up there and for me to just hit.
Yeah.
Short yardage rushing offense.
Sure.
Find a way. I know they got a yard when they desperately needed it finally against Notre Dame, against a 10-man defense. And that 10-man defense did come into play on that play, as anybody will tell you. But you got to be better than Ryan Day will tell you. They got to be better than that, man, in short yardage. They got to be better than that in being able to line up and knock a team off the ball and get that 1 yard. That's kind of been a song here for a couple of years now, for several years now. But they got to be better than they were at Notre Dame, because they left points on that field. That game didn't need to be as close as it turned out. And old-time coaches saying, I thought Notre Dame outplayed Ohio State. Notice I left out the lisp there. That game didn't need to be that close. That could have been a true referendum game on how good this Ohio State team can be. Because defensively, with the exception really of one drive, the drive by Notre Dame in the fourth quarter, this team played extremely well defensively against Sam Hartman in that offense. But you got to be able to get that yard no matter who you're playing, because it will come back to haunt you. We've seen it before. You don't want to see that same movie again. What's
your thing that you need to see, Andy, from this team coming out of the off week?
For me, it's third down defense, because I think, with this defense, it's played so well. It's hard to nitpick with a defense that's only allowed 34 total points through 4 games, but if you're looking at it, they've had so many timely stops.
Yeah.
Whether it's a takeaway, turnover on downs on fourth down, or just forcing a punt when you need to, right around midfield or a little bit past that.
Yeah, because the field position's been critical for Ohio State.
Right, but there have been times where, again, like Youngstown State, they were 7 of 15 on third down against Ohio State. Notre Dame, 5 of 10 on third down against Ohio State. Yes, you get those fourth down stops, but third down defense, I think, needs to be better. That's half your games are giving up almost half or half of the third downs to other teams. I think you need to be better on defense on third down, A, to get your offense more possessions, and B, because those timely stops aren't always going to come. I don't know how sustainable that is. And then, people are going to be talking about the defense a little bit more if you aren't getting that interception, that turnover on downs, et cetera.
Yeah, you want a good test of getting off the field. This Maryland team will do it to you. They're not afraid to run the ball at the beginning of drives. They're not afraid to go long on different plays, and then you got 3rd and 9. You got to get off the field. They're not afraid to run the ball right at you with Roman Hemby, and then you got to get off the field on 3rd down when you can. If you don't, this offense is going to make you pay. I think that's a great point. I'm looking at Kyle McCord just continuing to take that progression. Short yardage is one thing. You need your quarterback to not put you in short yardage, and I know that's not all on him, but if you can make 5 yards into 6. If you can make, the throws that matter on 1st and 2nd down, you're not putting yourself in as many 3rd downs, and that leads to fewer short yardage situations. I think he can be better on 1st and 2nd down. He's been clutch on money downs. We've talked about it ad nauseum for the last 2 weeks after that Notre Dame just thriller. 11 of 15 on 3rd and 4th down. I think, $1.62? Just incredible. But on 1st and 2nd down, he's got to be better, and I think that's important. So I'm looking at him.
That's why you get 3 downs, though.
Well, absolutely.
You get 3 downs to gain 10, not just 1. Not just 2. This ain't Canada.
I completely understand that, Tim.
This video is quickly going to the dogs, but I digress.
There's a dog show going on right beside us, but that's okay. We're going to keep talking about the Buckeyes, because last I checked, this was a football stadium and not the Westminster Dog Show.
Well, multi-purpose stadium, ladies and gentlemen.
I understand, Tim, that you have all 3 downs to use at your disposal, but one thing that C.J. Stroud was absolutely elite at is Ohio State just didn't face that many 3rd downs.
Yeah.
They didn't have to.
I agree.
And that's because the way he operated, he was so clinical and surgical. I know that Kyle McCord is not C.J. Stroud. It'll never be fair to compare him to C.J. Stroud. But that's what we do because that's who we are. Like, we will always compare quarterbacks. We compared C.J. to Justin until C.J. surpassed Justin, in my opinion. We compare Kyle to C.J. until we're told to otherwise, or we realize not to. And C.J. Stroud just did not put Ohio State in that many third downs because they were moving the ball so clinically. So I would say if there's one way to get better right now, it's for Kyle McCord to just be better. And he's going to continue to take progressions and take steps, but he needs to be better, in my opinion. That's not to say he's been bad. I think he's been great, but he also can get a lot better.
Yeah, he speaks about that a little bit on the Tim May show this week, which you co-hosted.
Hey, we got a dog in the show.
Hey, boys.
Yeah, we got a dog in the show.
I told you we were going to the dogs.
Go ahead, Tim.
I love it. Should have brought my black lab with me. Birdie would love this situation. But I digress. I mean, there are all kinds of parts of this football team that can be better. It's not a finished product by any stretch. The bottom line is they figured out a way to get to 4-0 and to be sitting here right now to dictate their own fate as this season progresses.
Yep.
And I think Kyle McCord is the first to tell you he can be better, like I said, but the bottom line is they have delivered. The big thing they got out of the Notre Dame game was getting a drive and getting a touchdown when they desperately needed that to win a football game on the road. So they've passed that test. They definitely can be more efficient offensively. Now, the team coming in here this week, Maryland, might afford them the opportunity to be more efficient offensively. But they may need to be because this Maryland team is scoring points. So we'll see. Both sides will face different tests in this game. I'm talking about Ohio State's offense and Ohio State's defense. But yeah, Kyle McCord would be the first to tell you he can be better. But man, when a guy stands and delivers in the clutch, you got something going for you.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I said, while I was being facetious about this in Canada, you get 3 downs to get a first down, sometimes 4, not just 2 or 3 like they do in Canada. I was being facetious, but you've got the ability to convert and 4th downs. Obviously, they've been pretty good on 4th downs until they played at Notre Dame the other night. But then when they really needed a couple of plays, they got them in that game. So without a doubt, there's room for improvement.
It's so weird to me. I'm watching college football all day on Saturday and sitting there and taking it all in because we don't get to do that very often just because of the way that this is. We're at Ohio State games, and that's fine. I'm not going to complain about that. I get to go watch Ohio State for a living, but it seems like Ohio State is in more short yardage situations than any team in the country. And maybe that's just because I watch them more closely.
I agree
but
with you.
Travion Henderson falls on second and on 1st and 10, you run, or on 2nd and 10, you run with Travion Henderson, he gets 9. He doesn't get 10. And the ball gets spotted just short. It's like every single time you think it's probably a first down. Actually, they need a yard. And I didn't see that a lot on Saturday. And maybe that's just a small sample size of watching, but I probably watched 20 games with the quad box and the way that you can now take in the sport. I probably watched 20 games. I did not see near as many 2nd and 1 and 3rd and 1 situations as I saw with the Scarlet and Gray so far through 4 games. Like, it's absurd how many times they're in these situations. So is the point you're
making they need to be better on 2nd down? What's the point you're making?
I mean, early downs are critical.
Okay.
I think early downs are just critical in general. Stay ahead.
Once again, I'm being facetious.
Yeah, but it's just funny, Andy. Like, this team finds itself in so many short yardage situations for how much talent it has.
Yeah, I think so. But then for as many of those plays there's also the 4th and 7 that you have Julian Fleming just getting that extra inch to get the conversion, or even the Chip Trainum touchdown run, like just getting that extra inch to get the touchdown. Like, so it goes both ways. Like, they've been close and short, but they've also been close and made it. So that's football, right? They all call it the game of inches. But I'm really excited for this Maryland game, guys. I think that Maryland should be ranked. I honestly thought it was really confusing when I saw the AP poll come out and they weren't ranked. And they're 5-0 for the first time since 2001. I feel like the Big Ten's being disrespected right now. I feel like the ACC, to a certain degree, is getting respected even more, which is weird to me, even though I think the ACC is very good this year. It is just odd to me that the Big Ten is suddenly, after having 2 teams in the college football playoff, is now, people are looking at this conference as a 3-team conference. They're looking at Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. They're not looking at Maryland. There's other teams in this conference, too, that are decent at playing football. I mean, even teams that we don't like to consider. Northwestern was hanging tough with Penn State in the first half. They're not a good football team.
Where'd you go to school, by the way, Andy?
We'll get to that later.
You know,
But
a football game is 60 minutes, not 30. Go
well,
ahead,
okay. My point is that this conference is still a good conference, and I feel like it's not being recognized right now. And Maryland especially. Look, one of the things they do, in addition to scoring a lot of points, they force a lot of turnovers.
Yeah.
They're tied for third in the country in takeaways right now at 12. And that's something that I'm going to be watching for this week. Can Ohio State not only stay ahead of the sticks and convert short yardage situations when they need to, but can they be turnover free against a team that really likes to cause havoc? And this isn't Western Kentucky where it's feast or famine. They're just really good at forcing turnovers in addition to playing decent defense.
And I know it was Kyle McCord's first start in Ohio State's opening game, but Maryland did a much better job of carving up Indiana's defense than Ohio State did in its opening game. This past weekend, Maryland carved them up in that first half, especially Talia Tungavaloa, Ty Felton. They just had a field day, you know. And meanwhile, we were kind of wondering in that Indiana game, where is the Kyle McCord, Marvin Harrison Jr. big time carving up, what do you call it there, the knife, whatever. It was whatever you use to carve a turkey. And but that's like 5 games into the season, I understand. But this is a potent offensive team that's rolling in to Ohio Stadium on Saturday. So we're going to see the test from the Ohio State defense, whether it truly has its act together. I think it does, because it pretty much shut down, with the exception of 2 drives, a Notre Dame offense that was potent going in with Sam Hartman. So it's going to be an interesting test. I agree with Andy in some respects, but I really do think the Big Ten, after you get past really the top 3, which is Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, in whatever order you want to put them in, from whatever precinct you're watching this from, there is a drop-off, a substantial drop-off to that next level.
Tim, I can assure you that
and by the way, Maryland may be at the top of that next level.
I can assure you that the Columbus demographic will list Ohio State first, and we don't really have the Happy Valley or the Ann Arbor demographic cornered on this show here.
You never know who's tuning into this, ladies and gentlemen. This is worldwide.
I suppose so. And you might be right there, Tim. You might be onto something there, partner. Speaking of partner, Joel Klatt, Gus Johnson going to be here on Saturday for Big Noon kickoff. They're doing the Big Noon pregame outside the Horseshoe.
Urban Meyer's going to be here.
What the hell does Maryland have to do to get ranked? This is stupid, okay? I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. LSU, you suck. Get them out.
Yeah.
They have looked awful.
It's called lazy voting. It's called lazy voting is what it's called.
We don't have a bleep button, so I can't say it. They got their butts kicked by Florida State. And then defensively got absolutely shredded by an offense that put up 10 points on Alabama.
Yeah. Talking about Ole Miss, ladies and gentlemen.
Who's your favorite? What's your favorite LSU win? The one over a bad Arkansas team? The one over Grambling?
Grambling, they handled Grambling.
Sure. Okay, that's fine. Or the one over Mississippi State, who, by the way, also sucks.
Yeah.
LSU, get out.
I mean, Alabama scored a lot of points on Mississippi State. They must stink.
LSU, get out.
Yeah.
Get them out of there. I get it. The SEC has the shine of being the premier conference in college football. That conference stinks. It's not good. And even though Maryland hasn't really played anybody, they're 5-0 for the first time since 2001. Voters, reward teams that win.
Yeah.
Good wins, bad wins over anybody are better than losses. I don't care who you're playing. They could be playing the 85 Bears, and if they lose, they should drop in the polls. I know LSU dropped. They shouldn't even be ranked. It shouldn't be.
I'm with you 155%. That's about as much as I can get.
And then you know what? We're going to go at the end of the season. We're going to, 2-loss Alabama won the SEC, and they beat a ranked LSU team. Ohio State only beat Notre Dame, Michigan, and Penn State. Well, yeah, because you satisfy your own talking points by not ranking undefeated Maryland, so Ohio State loses a ranked win if they beat Maryland, and then you satisfy your talking point by making LSU ranked, so if Missouri beats them this week in Columbia, Missouri got a win over a ranked team. Bull crap. It's terrible. Get your
act together.
Yeah, get your act together, poll voters. This is stupid.
That's called lazy poll voting, ladies and gentlemen.
Rank Maryland.
101.
Rank Maryland, you cowards. Rank the Ohio Bobcats while you're at it. Andy, I just, this game has so much intrigue. And even, love the folks in Nashville on 3. Ohio State, Maryland wasn't in the graphic of the marquee games on Saturday. I feel like this game is just flying under the radar.
Last year, this game was almost an upset. It was in College Park, but it was
what more do
almost
you
an upset.
need? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they really had Ohio State on the ropes.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point in that second half where I think we were all looking at each other in the press box. Hey, this might be the loss even before Michigan.
Outback Bowl, here it comes.
Yeah. And, who knows what would have happened then if you lose the game to Maryland. Maybe they beat Michigan. I don't know. Maybe they also lose to Michigan. You have 2 losses and you're going somewhere else.
Right.
I don't really know. But it was a very, very intriguing game last year in College Park. It was exciting the way that ended with Zach Harrison, the back-to-back sacks, the strip sack, the Steel Chambers fumble recovery for touchdown to seal the game.
Yep.
Dallin Hayden having a game.
Yeah, Dallin Hayden saving the season.
Yes.
Maybe. 3 touchdowns in the second half, more than 140 rushing yards, almost out of nowhere, stepping up with that running back depth chart just being decimated by injury.
And by the way, Dallin Hayden is still on the Ohio State football team.
He is still
it looks like he's being redshirted or something.
Yeah, hopefully we get more clarity on that if they will talk about it at some point. I mean, at some point they're probably going to have to say something.
To him, maybe.
Yeah, at least to him, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, my point is that game last year was incredible in terms of entertainment value. Their students showed out. It's going to be here this time, which means you're going to get a much larger crowd. It's big noon kickoff, I guess, but it's just weird that you're not getting that same excitement. I agree with you, Spencer. I really think, and Tim's mentioned this before, the AP poll should not come out until this week. This should be the first week of the AP poll, and then you probably don't have the 2-loss LSU in the poll because you don't have to account for how many spots they need to drop. Well, they're not even ranked if you do your first poll in October 1 because you've watched 4 or 5 weeks of college football and you know who should be there and who shouldn't. At least you should be if you're doing your work.
LSU shouldn't be there.
If it was a 25-floor office building, LSU now would have been kicked out for not paying its lease payment. Making its lease payments. That's exactly what we're talking about here. They should be out of that group, but it is what it is. I think a lot of people have bought into what I was just telling you. There's a top 3 in the Big Ten, which are obvious, which also happen to be in the same exact division of the Big Ten as Maryland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As we were talking about on the Tim May show with my co-pilot this week, Spencer. Maryland is at least number 4 in that group. Maryland. I saw somebody with the power rankings of the Big Ten. I agree. I think Maryland is number 4 in the Big Ten this week in terms of the 4th best team in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can make an argument for almost anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. But Saturday will tell the tale. The thing I like about Maryland, that I always like about any football team that catches my eye, is Michael Oxley and Maryland are not afraid to try to play offense, to get after it. So this is what I said earlier. This is going to be a test for this Ohio State defense. Probably as good a test, in my opinion, as they've faced all year so far. I mean, Notre Dame runs a nice little offense. Maryland tries to beat you with big plays, et cetera. They spread the field. They come after you. And then when you're defending the pass, they throw Hemby at you in the running game. So this will be a very interesting moment for the Ohio State football team.
I'll be very intrigued to see what Maryland tries to do against Ohio State. Do they try to shorten the game like a lot of teams do? And honestly, I would understand if they did. Roman Hemby's a good back.
I think they're going to take their shots.
I completely agree. I'm interested to see what the pressure points they try to poke are, and if you can take shots and still burn some clock. It's not impossible. A lot of teams have tried to burn clock without taking any shots.
If you make your third down.
Hello, all 4 teams Ohio State's played so far. Maryland is a little different. Here's the last thing I'll say. It's a shame for Maryland because, again, a 9-3 SEC team at the end of the year is always going to be ranked no matter what. Vandy could go 9-3 and lose the only 3 games against good teams on the schedule, and they would be ranked. Maryland is in this conundrum now where you're not ranked at 5-0. There's a good chance, and I'm not predicting the game right now, but there's a good chance they're going to lose to Ohio State. Then they're going to win a couple more, but they're not going to win enough to crawl back into the rankings. And then they're going to lose to Penn State. And then they'll fall back down even out of the receiving votes category. And then they'll win a couple more, and then they'll lose to Michigan. They could go 9-3 and not be ranked all year, which is a damn shame, but that's the way that we do things in college football. Again, like you said, Tim, this offense is very good, though. I'm intrigued to see how Ohio State defends them. Is this a Jordan Hancock game? Is this a Mike Hall game? Is this a Tyler Williams game?
Josh Proctor game.
Is it a or is it a Sonny Styles game where he's roaming around and making sure that he's roaming around Roman to keep Roman Hemby in check? How they defend Maryland here. Is this a Caden Curry on the inside to get pressure on Taulia type of game? Do they spy the mobile quarterback? There's a lot of questions about this Ohio State offense still, not only averaging 34 points a game right now, the lowest under Ryan Day. But also this defense, I mean, you got to answer the bell yet again this week against a good Maryland offense.
Roaming around Roman, ladies and gentlemen, we're professionals. Don't try this at home. Go ahead now.
I just remember Big Ten Media Days. Jim Harbaugh speaking far end of the stadium. And then right next to him is Roman Hemby, who's speaking from Maryland. And there was probably 2, maybe 3.
I did the same thing 3 years ago with Talia Tungavaloa. I go,
Yeah.
man, they put you in the wrong spot.
Yeah. 2, maybe 3 reporters talking to Roman Hemby. And everyone else, of course, is swarmed by Jim Harbaugh. And, there was the suspension looming in the air. There was a lot to talk about. Back-to-back Big Ten champions. There's obviously a tension there. But, it's just funny to me, like, completely overlooked. I do believe they're definitely the 4th best team in the Big Ten. I think if you put them in the Big Ten West, they win the Big Ten West.
Yeah.
I think that there's a chance they knock off one of the Big Ten East powers. I don't think it's Ohio State here. I think they've got a shot against Michigan, at home at least. They're in College Park for that game. It's the same situation Ohio State had, going Week 12 to College Park before this game here, which was, last year they played here. That now it's going to be in Ann Arbor. They're going to have the game at home, the game in the big house. It's possible you overlook Maryland again in that situation. So, look, I don't think it's out of the question that they steal one of those games against the Big Ten East power. I think that, it's not just Roman Hemby. They've also got Colby McDonald in the backfield, Antoine Littleton as well. They've got some good backs in that backfield. The receivers, Tim already mentioned Ty Felton. They got Caden Prather, Jashawn Jones. I mean, and even Corey Ditches, their tight end. We talked about, just all of these weapons that they have for Talia Tungavaloa, who's, by the way, their all-time leading passer. This is a team that has returned talent. They brought in new talent. And I think that, ultimately, this is a matchup that I've had circled for a while just because of the way last year's ended. I think it's a little bit different in Columbus, but you look back at the history of this game.
Yep.
When they've played here, it hasn't been close, and it hasn't been pretty either. I mean, Ohio State's hung 60-plus points consistently on Mike Lockley and this team, but I don't think that's going to happen.
But over there, different deal.
Different deal, and I don't think that's going to happen here.
Yeah, so we haven't even touched on the real question about this Ohio State football team going into this game with a team that may throw it a lot is the Ohio State pass rush. I know where they rank in pressures and all that kind of stuff, but is this a day when the Ohio State pass rush definitely has to take that next step and get to the quarterback, as in sacks and things like that? I know they've had their pressures and stuff, but this is an interesting test, I think, for this Ohio State defensive front 4. Maybe call it the defensive front 7. What do you think?
I'm out on sacks. I'm a pressures guy now. I'd like to make the formal announcement.
We walked him off the ledge, ladies and gentlemen.
I'd like to make the formal announcement that I'm a pressures guy now. I just think you can.
I agree. I've been saying that all along. But
you can. Football fans want to see sacks. They're exciting plays. They get the crowd involved.
They're also minus yards.
Yeah, but pressures are almost more effective. You force bad throws. You force interceptions. You can force some really bad decisions from quarterbacks who get antsy. As good as I think Talia Tungavailoa has been for Maryland, there's a propensity there when he faces good defense, he gets under pressure and he throws interceptions. You can look at it through his stats. It's a tale as old as time at this point with him. He's a known commodity in this league. He's a good player, but if you can pressure him, you can get to him. And get to him does not mean bringing him to the ground.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not a pass rush win rate guy. I think that's an overblown stat. Congrats on the win rate, bro.
Somebody
Are you affecting the game? Pressures do affect the game, and this team is very good at pressuring the quarterback, and that speeds up internal clocks. That forces interceptions. That forces bad throws.
Notre Dame's last possession, for example.
Yeah, so I think that this is a good opportunity for them to make a statement, but that doesn't mean that this team is going to go out and have 7 sacks of the Maryland quarterback. I think it just means that they're going to pressure him a lot.
Okay.
And I think
I'd bring it up.
And that's a good thing, though. I think the next step is pressuring a better quarterback, like Talia Tungavailoa, the way they did with Sam Hartman.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to the game plan of Maryland, right? Like how quickly they want to get the ball out. You play Western Kentucky and Austin Reed's averaging 2.2 seconds per drop back on his throws. You play Sam Hartman in Notre Dame, he's throwing the ball in 2.84 seconds per throw on his dropbacks. And then you look at the opposite 2 weeks of week 3 and then week 5 for Sam Hartman, he was both over 3 seconds for average throw on his drop back. So like teams are game planning to throw the ball quickly against Ohio State because they know what JT Tuimoloau can do. They know what Jack Sawyer can do. Like this is intentional. It's not just this is the way it's happening.
Yeah.
It's just something they're game planning to do. So it depends on what does Maryland want to do with Taulia Tagovailoa. Do they want him to get the ball out super quick? Do they think they can wait a little bit longer and make something happen with extending plays and structure or whatever? Maybe they go that route. So I'm not sure exactly what they're going to try to do, but if they try to get it out quickly again, yes, it's all about pressures. It's about disrupting passing lanes. It's about, wreaking some havoc in ways that isn't a sack.
Yeah, the reason I brought that up because I'm under this bright light now to confess or do something, and come clean. So I wanted to bring that up because this defense is really close in this modern age of becoming maybe not shut down, because I don't think any defense can shut teams down anymore with the weapons available and the rules as such. But this defense, this is going to be another one of those barometer games, because we saw what Maryland's offense did against this defense last year and some of the gaffes that happened by Ohio State. This is going to be another one of those. I'm going to be judging this defense based on prior performance. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think this is against a known quantity at quarterback, some pretty well-known receivers by now, et cetera, and a known offensive line. How does this defense shape up? I'm going to be watching closely.
On the other side of the ball, there's certainly still questions. Number one, Marvin Harrison Jr. and that precious little ankle of his. Is it better? We don't know. We saw it wrapped up a little bit, but he was out there catching passes when we were inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Wednesday. We'll get an update from Ryan Day on Tuesday about that, and then we'll see him out there, I would assume, catching passes on the Monarch machine on Wednesday. I wouldn't expect him to miss time, but I'm not a doctor. I don't get paid to do that. So right now, that's one of the bigger questions. And then the other question is, and I don't mean to keep harping on it, but it is what it is. It's a thing. Ohio State struggles when it plays at Maryland. Ohio State's had 2 starting quarterbacks under Ryan Day as head coach. Each of them have played 1 home game against Maryland. Justin Fields, 73. C.J. Stroud, 66. In this building, against that opponent, you put up a lot of points. And so I'm willing to entertain the idea that Ohio State's offense will get it right this week and go crazy.
Spencer Holbrook is put it down in front of you.
I'm curious, okay, if that's the trend here, go put on an offensive clinic against a defense that Ryan Day obviously knows and understands how to poke and how to attack, and put up some points and put up some numbers. I think that it's not something that's unattainable to ask for this offense.
Ohio State a favorite by in this game?
18.
Yeah, see that? Based on your criteria, that seems a little bit tight. But I think people see Maryland possibly being able to score points against this defense. I think that's more what they're looking at, right? So, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's the previous week, which was at Notre Dame, was all about the W.
Yeah.
This the W this time stands for wide or wider margin, or how wide is the margin. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I think Vegas implied odds say 37-19 right now, because the total is 55.5.
Yeah.
Andy, offensively, I think this Ohio State team has something to prove this week.
Yeah, I just don't see them sniffing 50 points. I think that maybe they get 40, maybe, but I think that this Maryland team, if you beat them by 17, it's nothing to be ashamed about.
No.
Yeah, this is a good Maryland
really
team.
think that this
not
is
great, but good.
Yeah, look, they're top 20 in third down conversion rate, so if they want to keep the ball and play some clock, they can. Okay, so if they want to play that way, they can. Defensively, they can force turnovers, as I've mentioned already. This is a team that I think will definitely hang a good fight here in Columbus. And that's the thing with, as much as you talk about the offense, it's got to be good defense and efficient defense to get the offense that many opportunities. They had 8 possessions against Notre Dame. They're averaging 10 possessions this game. If you're going to score 60, you have to imagine you need at least 12 possessions. That's what they had against Western Kentucky, and they scored 63. And they had 2 defensive touchdowns in that game. So, you need possessions to score that many points. I don't know where those possessions come from unless Maryland's going 3 and out consistently, which they haven't done this year. So I think that's my question there. The other thing I want to mention with Marvin Harrison Jr., if he does need to miss time, which I don't expect him to.
He went back into the game, ladies and gentlemen.
I really
he caught a big pass
I really
on
don't
that winning
expect him
touchdown
to, but
drive.
I thought it was interesting, and I think it's just worth noting that Chip Trainum in his post-game press conference said, he was asked about Marvin coming back, and he said, you know, it would have been Carnell Tate's time, and we were all, you know, ready for that to happen. And I think that just shows the trust they have in Carnell Tate. And I think that, you know, one thing Spencer and I wrote about this week for LettermenRow.com and looking at the off week and a third of the way through the regular season is, will Carnell Tate play a bigger role in the final 8 games of the regular season? And I think he's right on the cusp of having that bigger role. But and then the last thing I'll say is just defensively, this is a good stat that I tweeted out yesterday, I think. There's only 3 teams in America that have not allowed a play of 40 or more yards from scrimmage: Ohio State, Air Force, and Rutgers. And I think that's a big. I mean, Ohio State allowed 18 of those plays last year. They have not allowed 1 through 4 weeks.
Isn't that you got to give it up to them. I mean, have they faced just a really just over the top dynamic offense yet? No, you know, Western Kentucky, I think is that kind of thing. But I think this is a more talented sort of offense coming in here Saturday than Western Kentucky. I'm talking about across the board of weapons that can beat you. So, but you got to give it up to Jim Knowles and his group to this point of seeming to have fixed something that really killed them at the end of the year last year. But once again, another acid test is on the way.
I don't know that they will, Tim, face an offense that is really an over-the-top offense.
This one is. I mean, Maryland gets after you.
But, okay, so Maryland tried to throw it over the top. I don't think they have
I'm just talking about giving up big plays isn't necessarily giving up a 50-yard touchdown or 50-yard pass. I'm talking about a catch and run type stuff.
I completely understand what you're saying, Tim. What I'm trying to say is Penn State has shown that it just is not an explosive offense. It will score points, but it's not doing it in an explosive fashion whatsoever. Right. And Michigan's going to run the ball down your throat and make you stop it. And they're not really over the top, take the top off the defense offense. Until you bite on it, but a lot of teams haven't been biting on it. Right. And so I'm not sure that Ohio State's going to face an offense like that, except for the one here. So it's going to be a good test for the Buckeyes. Lettermen Row will have it covered all week. Tim May, the 40-year vet, he'll be around. Andy Backstrom, he'll be around. Spencer Holbrook, that's me. Big recruiting weekend in Columbus this weekend. A lot of the recruits, the teens, are coming to Columbus. Watch these Buckeyes on homecoming on their home field against Maryland. Lettermen Row will be there on Saturday, up in the press box, way up top there. Until then, we're going to be covering the Buckeyes like we do 365 days a year. Ryan Day's press conference on Tuesday. Players in the Woody on Wednesday. Bold predictions on Friday. We've got it all at lettermenrow.com. Come be a part of the party. Right now, $1 for 1 month. You can get in on all the action, come to the Lettermen Lounge message board and hang out with us, read all of our content, and see what we're up to at lettermenrow.com. Until then, I'm going to go home and get this video up so you guys can go watch it. Tim May, the 40-year vet, Andy Backstrom, I'm Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys on Tuesday in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center.